The invitation arrived in a small metal box that looked too expensive for Sergeant Elias Kane. It came to his tiny rented room on Station 47, a dirty trading post at the edge of human space. The box was gold, with blue lines that glowed softly. Inside was a thin crystal card. When Elias touched it, words appeared in the air in perfect trade speech. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Princess Lyrian Valoria of the Thalorian Empire and Prince Varkas of the Korath Dominion. Thaler Prime, 1 cycle from today. Elias stared at the floating words for a long time. He was 38 years old, short for a human, with scars on his face and arms from too many battles. His dark hair was cut very short. His eyes were gray and tired. He had fought in 3 wars for the human Concord. Now he worked as a freelance guard, protecting rich people and their cargo. People paid him to stand in dangerous places and make sure nothing bad happened. He had never received an invitation like this before. "Why me?" he said to the empty room. No one answered. He checked the small print at the bottom of the card. It said the invitation was sent to 1 human representative, as a sign of respect to the new alliance between the Thalorians and the Koraths. The 2 biggest empires in this part of the galaxy had decided to join hands through marriage. Humanity was small and new. They were invited only to show that everyone was included. Elias almost laughed. He was not a diplomat. He was not important. He was just a man who knew how to survive when others died. But the card had his name on it. Someone had chosen him. He thought about throwing it away. Then he thought about the free food and drink at a royal wedding. He thought about the chance to see Thalor Prime, a world people said was so beautiful it hurt your eyes. He had never been there. In the end, he packed 1 small bag. He took his best dress uniform, dark blue with silver lines, no medals because he did not like showing them. He left his weapons behind. The invitation said no weapons were allowed at the ceremony. Thalorian custom. The trip took 6 days on a slow civilian transport. Elias spent most of the time in the observation deck, watching stars slide past. He did not talk much to the other passengers. They were traders, minor nobles, rich people going to see the show. They looked at him strangely, a plain human in a simple uniform among their bright clothes. When the ship came out of jump near Thalor Prime, everyone went quiet. The planet was huge and bright, oceans of silver-blue water, continents covered in shining cities, towers so tall they touched the clouds. The sky was gold at the edges. Elias felt something tight in his chest. He had seen many worlds. None looked like this. The shuttle took him down to the surface. He landed at the Grand Plaza of the Eternal Light. Thousands of Thalorians were already there. They were tall and thin, with skin that changed color like oil on water, blue, green, violet. Their eyes were large and bright. They moved with perfect grace, like dancers. Elias stepped out. He felt small. His boots made loud sounds on the smooth white stone. People turned to look at him. Some smiled politely. Some stared openly. A few whispered. He walked through the crowd to the great hall where the wedding would happen. Guards in silver armor checked his invitation. They let him in without a word. Inside, the hall was bigger than any place Elias had ever seen. The ceiling was so high, it looked like open sky. Pillars of white stone rose like trees. Flowers that glowed softly hung from the walls. Thousands of seats were arranged in circles around a raised platform in the center. Elias found his seat at the back. It was a simple chair, not like the soft glowing seats for the nobles. He sat down and looked around. The Thalorians were beautiful in their long robes. The Korath guests were different. They were huge, almost 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin, horns on their heads, and heavy armor, even for a wedding. Their eyes were red. They laughed loudly, and hit each other on the back. They looked ready for war, not a party. Princess Lyrian Vyloria stood near the platform. She was young, maybe 25 in human years. Her skin shimmered pale gold. Her long hair was white like snow. She wore a dress made of light that moved like water. She looked calm, but Elias saw the small way her fingers moved. Nervous. Next to her was Prince Varkas. He was the biggest Korath in the room. His armor was black and red. His horns were polished and sharp. He smiled with too many teeth. He kept one hand on Lyrian's arm. Not gentle. Possessive. Elias watched them. He had seen men like Varkas before. Men who wanted power more than they wanted anything else. The music started. Soft bells and strings. Everyone stood. The old Thalorian king walked slowly to the platform. He was thin and old. His crown was heavy on his head. He looked tired. The ceremony began. Priests in white spoke ancient words. Lyrian and Varkas stepped forward. They faced each other. Varkas said his vows in a loud voice. Lyrian spoke hers quietly. Elias listened. He did not understand all the words, but he understood enough. This marriage was not about love. It was about power. The Korath dominion was strong and hungry. The Thalorian Empire was old and rich. If they joined, they would control half the galaxy. Many Thalorians in the crowd looked worried. Some looked afraid. Elias sat still. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had fought for humans when bigger powers tried to crush them. He knew what this kind of alliance meant. The small people always paid the price. A servant came around with drinks on silver trays. Elias took one. It tasted like metal and flowers. He drank it slowly. The vows were almost finished. The priest raised his hands for the final blessing. Then Prince Varkas stepped forward. He raised one big hand. The music stopped. "Before the bond is sealed," he said in a deep voice that carried through the hall, "there is something I must say." Everyone went quiet. Varkas turned to the old king. "Your Majesty, the marriage contract has an old clause. If the groom proves he is stronger in martial virtue, he may claim co-regency at once. I invoke that right." Gasps filled the hall. The king looked shocked. His hands shook. Varkas smiled. "I do not do this to insult. I do it to protect. The empire needs strong hands now. My hands." He looked around the room. "By Thalorian law, any champion may challenge me. If they win, the claim is void. If no one steps forward, the crown passes to me today." Silence. No Thalorian moved. Elias looked at the princess. Her face was pale. Her eyes were fixed on the floor. Varkas laughed. "So be it. The bond is sealed. The empire is—" A single voice cut through the quiet. "I object." Everyone turned. Elias Kane stood up from his chair at the back. He was small among the tall aliens. His face was calm. Varkas stared at him. Then he laughed again, louder. "The human speaks," he said. "How amusing." Elias walked slowly down the aisle between the seats. His boots made the only sound. He stopped at the edge of the platform. "I object," he said again, in flat, simple words. "On behalf of common sense." The hall was completely silent now. Elias looked up at Varkas, then at the princess, then at the old king. He rolled up his sleeves. No one knew what would happen next, but something had begun. The hall stayed quiet after Elias spoke. Thousands of eyes watched him. Some were curious, some were angry, most were confused. A small human in a plain blue uniform stood alone at the edge of the raised platform. He looked up at Prince Varkas without fear. Varkas bent forward a little. His red eyes narrowed. His big mouth opened in a slow, cruel smile. "You object?" he said. His voice was loud and rough, like stones grinding together. on behalf of common sense. A few Korath warriors laughed. The sound was deep and mean. Some Thalorians shifted in their seats, uncomfortable. Elias did not move. He kept his hands loose at his sides. "Yes," he said. "Your claim is stupid. You want to take a whole empire because you can swing a big stick harder than old men at scared nobles. That's not strength. That's bullying." More laughter from the Korath side, louder this time. Varkas straightened up to his full height. He was almost 8 feet tall. His black armor caught the light from the glowing flowers on the walls. "And what would a human know about strength?" he asked. "Your people are new, small, weak. You crawl around the edges of real power like insects." Elias shrugged one shoulder. "Maybe, but insects survive. Big animals die when they get too slow." The old king raised a thin hand. His voice was weak but clear. "Silence. The law is old. The challenge is allowed. Any guest may speak against the claim. The human has spoken." He looked at Elias. His large violet eyes were tired but sharp. "Do you challenge Prince Varkas in martial combat?" Elias looked at the king for a long second. Then he looked at Princess Lyrian. She stood very still. Her golden skin had gone pale. Her white hair hung like a curtain around her face. There was something in them. Not hope yet, but something close to it. Elias turned back to the king. "I do," he said. The hall exploded into noise. Thalorians whispered fast to each other. Korath warriors roared with laughter and insults. Servants ran to the sides of the room. Guards moved closer, hands on their weapons. Varkas raised both arms. The noise died down. "Very well," he said. "I accept. Let the human entertain us before I take what is mine." He turned to his guards. "Clear the floor. Bring the ritual circle." In minutes, workers moved the front rows of seats. They rolled up thick carpets. Underneath was smooth white marble, marked with silver lines in a wide circle. The ancient combat ring. It was big enough for 10 men to fight inside. Varkas stepped down from the platform. He walked into the circle like he owned it. His heavy boots made deep thuds. He took off his long red cloak and dropped it. Then he removed the heavy shoulder plates of his armor. He kept the chest piece and arm guards. They were made of dark metal that looked stronger than steel. He picked up a long glaive from one of his guards. The blade was mono-edged, so sharp it could cut light itself. The shaft was black and heavy. He spun it once. The air made a sharp whistle. Elias watched. He did not look impressed. A Thalorian priest in white robes stepped forward. He held a small book made of thin metal sheets. "By the old law of Thalor," he said, "the challenger fights without weapons or armor unless the challenged allows it. The fight ends when one yields or can no longer stand or dies." He looked at Varkas. "Do you allow the human any weapon?" Varkas laughed again. "No, let him fight with his bare hands. It will be quicker." The priest looked at Elias. "Do you accept these terms?" Elias nodded once. "Then begin." Elias walked into the circle. He stopped 10 steps from Varkas. He rolled up his sleeves higher. His arms were thick with muscle and covered in old scars. Knife cuts, burn marks, bullet holes that had healed rough. He cracked his neck from side to side. That was all. Varkas grinned wider. "Last chance, little man. Kneel and beg. I might let you live as my pet." Elias said nothing. Varkas charged. He moved fast for someone so big. The glaive came down in a fast arc, aimed to split Elias in half. The blade sang through the air. Elias stepped to the side. Not far. Just enough. The blade hit marble and sparked. Chips of stone flew. Varkas pulled the weapon back and swung again, low this time, trying to cut Elias's legs. Elias jumped back. The blade missed by inches. The crowd leaned forward. No one had expected the human to last even one swing. Varkas laughed. You run like a rabbit. He moved around the edge of the circle, keeping distance. His eyes followed every move Varkas made. The way his shoulders turned, the way his feet planted, the small shift in weight before each attack. Varkas attacked again, this time a straight thrust at Elias's chest. Elias twisted his body. The point slid past his uniform, tearing cloth but not skin. He grabbed the shaft with both hands as it went by. For a second, they were locked. Varkas was much stronger. He yanked hard. Elias let go at the last moment. Varkas stumbled forward from the sudden lack of resistance. Elias stepped in close and drove his elbow into the side of Varkas's knee, the joint where armor did not cover perfectly. There was a dull crack. Varkas roared in pain and surprise. He swung his fist backward. Elias ducked under it. The fist hit empty air. The crowd made a sound, half gasp, half shout. Varkas turned fast. His leg limped now. He swung the glaive in wide circles to keep Elias away. Elias did not rush in. He waited. He watched. Varkas attacked again, angrier now. The blade came down hard. Elias rolled to the side. As he came up, he grabbed one of the long ceremonial drapes that hung from a pillar near the circle. He pulled hard. The drape tore free. Heavy red cloth fell. Varkas laughed. What? You think cloth will save you? Elias wrapped the cloth around his left arm like a shield. Then he moved in. Varkas thrust again. Elias caught the blade on the wrapped arm. The mono edge cut deep into the cloth and into skin. Blood ran down Elias's arm, but the thick material slowed the blade enough. Elias stepped inside Varkas's guard. He punched hard into the prince's throat, not to kill, just to hurt. Varkas choked and stepped back. Elias did not stop. He kicked the injured knee again. Varkas went down on one leg. Thalorians shouted in surprise. Korath warriors yelled for their prince to finish it. Varkas stood up slowly. His face was dark with rage. Blood trickled from his mouth. You insect, he growled. He charged one last time, full power, glaive high. Elias waited until the last second. Then he dropped low, slid under the swing, and came up behind Varkas. He grabbed the prince's arm that held the weapon. With a hard twist and pull, he locked the joint. Varkas roared and tried to break free. Elias used his body weight. He pulled Varkas backward and down. The big Korath hit the marble hard on his back. The glaive clattered away. Elias stepped on Varkas's chest. He pressed down just enough to pin him. Varkas looked up, breathing hard. His red eyes were wide with shock. Elias leaned down close. Yield, he said quietly. Varkas tried to push him off. Something in Varkas's armor cracked. Yield, Elias said again. The hall waited. Varkas closed his eyes. His voice came out low and broken. I yield. Elias stepped back. The silence was total. Then the old king stood up slowly. His hands shook. By the law of Thalor, he said, the challenge is won. The claim is broken. He looked at Elias. Human, you have saved us from a dark path. Elias wiped blood from his arm. He looked tired, not proud. He glanced at Princess Lyrian. She stared at him. Her face was no longer pale. Color had come back. Her eyes were bright. Something had changed in the air. The wedding was stopped, but something bigger had just started. The old king stood on the platform. His thin body shook a little. The crown on his head looked too heavy for him now. He looked down at Elias Cain, who stood in the middle of the broken marble circle. Blood dripped from Elias's left arm onto the white floor. Small red drops spread like dark flowers. The king spoke slowly. His voice was soft, but everyone heard it. The challenge is complete. Prince Varkas has yielded. The marriage claim is broken. The alliance he wanted is gone. A low sound moved through the hall. It was not cheers yet. It was surprise, relief, fear. The Thalorians had watched something they never thought possible. A small human had beaten the strongest Korath prince with only his hands and body. Varkas still lay on his back. Two of his guards helped him sit up. His face was dark with pain and shame. Blood came from his mouth. His red eyes stared at Elias like he wanted to kill him with a look. "You cheated," Varkas said in a rough whisper. "No honor. Tricks." Elias wiped sweat from his face with his good arm. "You had armor. You had a weapon. You had size. I had nothing. You still lost." Varkas tried to stand. His leg would not hold him. He fell back to one knee. His guards held him up. The king raised his hand again. "Enough. The law is clear. The fight was fair. The human won." He turned to look at the ancient book on the small table beside his throne. A priest opened it to a page marked with gold thread. The king read the words quietly first. Then he spoke them out loud. "There is more." Everyone went still again. The king's voice grew stronger as he read. "From the time of the First Empire, when Thalor was young and warriors ruled, the law says this: if a champion defeats a false claimant in the sacred circle during the rite of union, and if the royal blood consents, the victor may claim the crown of protection. He becomes consort to the royal line. He shares the throne until the line is safe. He is called King Protector." A gasp went through the Thalorians. Many had forgotten this old rule. It came from days long ago when the Empire fought real wars, not just played at politics. The king looked at his daughter. Princess Lyrian stood near the platform. Her dress of moving lights still shimmered, but now it looked brighter. Her hands were not shaking anymore. "Lyrian," the king said gently, "the choice is yours. The law gives you the right to accept or refuse. Will you consent to this human as your consort, as co-ruler?" All eyes turned to her. Lyrian stepped forward. She walked down the 2 steps to the marble floor. Her bare feet made no sound. She stopped in front of Elias. He looked up at her. He was shorter than she was. Blood still ran down his arm. His uniform was torn in 3 places. Sweat and dirt covered his face, but his gray eyes were steady. She looked at him for a long time. She saw the scars on his arms and neck. She saw the way he stood, not proud, not scared, just there, like a rock that would not move. She remembered how he fought, not with beautiful moves like Thalorian warriors, not with loud roars like Korath. He fought like he had done it many times before. Every hit was meant to hurt. Every step was to stay alive. He did not care about looking good. He only cared about winning. She had never seen anyone fight like that. Her voice was clear and calm. "I consent." The words hung in the air. A Korath warrior shouted in anger. "This is a trick! A human cannot rule Thalor." Other Koraths started to move forward. Their hands went to weapons. Guards from both sides stepped between them. The hall became tense. Swords half-drawn, hands on hilts. The old king stood taller than he had in years. "Stop," he said. His voice cut through the noise. "The law is the law. The challenge was won. The consent is given. This is Thalor, not Korath." He looked at Varkas. "Prince, your claim is dead. Take your people and go. The wedding is ended. There will be no alliance today." Varkas pushed his guards away. He stood on his good leg. His face was twisted. "This is not over," he said. "The Dominion will remember this shame." The king nodded slowly. "I know. But today, you leave." Guards moved in. They formed a line between the Korath and the platform. Slowly, the Korath delegation started to walk out. Varkas limped between them. He looked back once at Elias. His eyes promised revenge. When the last Korath left the hall, the doors closed with a heavy sound. The silence came back. The king turned to Elias. "Step forward, human." Elias walked up the steps. His boots left small bloody prints on the white stone. He stopped in front of the king. The old man looked at him closely. "You have no name of rank here," the king said, "but today you earned one." He took the crown from his own head. It was silver and gold, with small blue gems that caught the light. He held it high. "By the old law, I name you King Protector of Thalor, consort to my daughter, co-ruler until the line is safe." He placed the crown on Elias's head. It was too big. It sat a little crooked. Elias reached up to touch it. He looked surprised. "Wait," he said. "King?" It was the first real smile anyone had seen from him in a long time. "Yes, King." Lyrian stepped beside Elias. She took his bloody hand in hers. Her touch was cool and gentle. The crowd started to make noise. First whispers, then louder voices, then cheers. Not all of them. Some Thalorians looked worried. Some looked angry. But many looked happy. They had been afraid of the Korath. Now, a stranger had stopped it. Elias looked around. He saw the faces. He saw the fear change to something else. Hope, maybe. He looked at Lyrian. "I didn't come here for this," he said quietly. She smiled a little. "I know, but you are here now." The king raised his hands. "Today is not a wedding day anymore," he said. "It is a day of change. The human who walked in alone walks out a king." The cheers grew louder. Elias stood there with the crown on his head, blood on his clothes, a princess holding his hand, an empire behind him. He felt strange, not proud, not scared, just tired. But he did not run. He stayed. Outside the hall, word spread fast. Servants ran through the palace. Messengers flew on fast ships to the stars. The message was simple. A human had fought. A human had won. A human now wore the crown of Thalor. The galaxy would hear about it soon, and nothing would be the same. The great hall slowly emptied after the Korath left. Servants moved quietly to clean the broken marble and the blood on the floor. The glowing flowers on the walls dimmed a little, as if the room itself felt tired. Elias Cain stood on the platform, with the silver and gold crown still sitting crooked on his head. It felt heavy and strange. He wanted to take it off, but he did not know if that was allowed. Princess Lyrian stood close to him. Her hand was still on his arm. Her touch was light, but it kept him steady. The old king sat back on his throne. He looked smaller now, like the fight had taken the last of his strength. A group of Thalorian nobles came forward. They were tall and elegant in their bright robes. Their skin changed color slowly, blue to green to soft purple. They bowed low to the king first. Then they looked at Elias. Some faces showed respect. One older noble, with long silver hair, stepped closer. "Your Majesty," he said to the king, "this human, he fought well, but can he rule? He knows nothing of our laws, our history, our ways." The king lifted a weak hand. "He knows how to win when others lose. That is enough for today." The noble turned to Elias. "What is your name, human?" "Elias Cain," he said. "Sergeant, once. Now, I don't know." The noble looked at the crown. "Now you are King Protector Elias Cain. The title is yours by law and by consent." Elias looked down at the floor. "I came here for a wedding, not a throne." Lyrian spoke then. Her voice was calm but firm. "You came here and changed everything. That is why you wear the crown now." The nobles whispered among themselves. Some nodded slowly. Others still looked unsure. The king stood up with help from 2 guards. He walked down the steps to Elias. When he reached him, He put a thin hand on Elias's shoulder. "Come," the king said. "We must speak alone. There is more you need to know." They walked through a side door. Lyrian followed. The guards stayed behind. They entered a small room behind the throne. It had high windows that looked out over the shining city. Stars were starting to appear in the gold sky. A long table stood in the middle, with chairs made of white wood. The king sat first. He looked very old now. His skin was pale violet. His eyes were cloudy. "Sit," he told Elias and Lyrian. They sat. The king spoke slowly. "The crown of protection is not just a title. It gives real power. You can command the army. You can speak for the empire in council. You can make laws with my daughter. But the law also says this: if the royal line is threatened again, the king protector must defend it, with his life if needed." Elias listened. He rubbed the cut on his arm. It had stopped bleeding, but it hurt. "I'm not a king," he said. "I'm a soldier. I fight. I don't rule." The king smiled a little. "That is why we need you. Our nobles talk. They plan. They smile while they plot. You do not. You act." Lyrian looked at Elias. "My father is dying," she said quietly. "He has been sick for many cycles. When he is gone, the throne will be mine alone, unless the council finds a reason to take it. The Korath will come back. They will not forget today." Elias looked out the window. The city lights looked like rivers of silver. "And if I say no? If I walk away?" The king shook his head. "You cannot. The law binds you now. If you leave, the nobles will call it treason. They will hunt you. Or worse, they will use your name to start a war." Elias let out a long breath. "Great, so I'm stuck." Lyrian touched his hand again. "Not stuck. Needed." The king leaned forward. "The crown you wear is not the only one. There is a deeper crown, the crown of stars. It is hidden. Only the true ruler can find it. When you wear it, no one can question your right. Not nobles, not Korath, not even time." Elias frowned. "Where is it?" The king closed his eyes. "In the old vaults under the palace. But the way is dangerous. Traps, tests. Only one who has proven himself in the circle can open the path." Elias looked at Lyrian. She nodded slowly. "I will go with you," she said, "if you want." He thought for a moment, then he stood up. "Fine," he said. "Let's get it over with." They left the small room. The king stayed behind with his guards. Elias and Lyrian walked through long halls. The walls were covered in pictures of old Thalorian kings and queens. All tall, all beautiful. None looked like him. They went down many stairs. Deeper and deeper. The air became cool. The lights changed from gold to soft blue. At the bottom was a big stone door. No handle. No keyhole. Just a circle carved in the middle. The same shape as the combat ring upstairs. Lyrian put her hand on the stone. "It reads blood and will," she said. "You must prove you are ready." Elias looked at his bloody sleeve. He pressed his arm against the circle. Red smeared the stone. Nothing happened at first. Then the circle glowed. A low sound came from inside the door, like stone moving on stone. The door opened slowly. Inside was a long tunnel. Small blue lights floated in the air like fireflies. The floor was black glass. They walked in. The door closed behind them. The tunnel went on for a long time. At the end was a round room. In the middle stood a stone pillar. On top of the pillar was a small crown. It was black metal with tiny white stars trapped inside the metal. They moved like real stars in the night. Elias stepped closer. As he reached for it, the floor shook. Shadows rose from the walls, tall shapes made of smoke and light. They looked like old warriors. Their eyes glowed white. One spoke in a deep voice. "Who dares claim the crown of stars?" Elias stopped. Elias Kane, I beat a prince today. I didn't ask for this, but I'm here. The shadows moved closer. Prove your worth again. Lyrian stepped forward. He already proved it. The shadows ignored her. They looked only at Elias. Elias sighed. Again? He took off the big crown and set it on the floor. He rolled up his sleeves once more. The shadows attacked. They were fast. One swung a blade of light. Elias ducked. Another tried to grab him. He twisted away. He did not hit them. He could not touch smoke. Instead, he moved. He used the room. He jumped on the pillar. He kicked off the wall. He stayed alive. The shadows kept coming. Elias kept moving. His body hurt. His arm bled again. But he did not stop. Finally, one shadow stopped. It bowed its head. You fight not for glory, it said. You fight because you must. That is true worth. The shadows faded. The room became quiet. Elias walked to the pillar. He took the crown of stars. It was light. When he put it on, the stars inside moved faster. He felt something warm in his chest, like strength, but deeper. Lyrian smiled. Now no one can take it from you. They walked back up. The big crown waited on the floor. Elias picked it up. He carried both. When they returned to the hall, the nobles were still there. They saw the crown of stars. They went quiet. Elias stood in front of them. I didn't want this, he said, but I have it now. If anyone wants to challenge me again, they can step forward. Like before, no one moved. The king smiled from his throne. King Elias, he said, welcome. Elias looked at Lyrian. She stood tall beside him. He felt strange, not like a king yet, but maybe in time he could learn. Outside the stars shone brighter. The human who walked in alone now stood with two crowns, and the galaxy watched. One full cycle had passed since the day in the Great Hall. Thalor Prime still shone under its golden sky, but the air felt different now. Word had spread across the stars like fire through dry grass. A human, unknown, uninvited in any real sense, had walked into a royal wedding and walked out wearing not one, but two crowns. The crown of protection, the crown of stars. The galaxy talked. Some laughed, some worried, many feared. Elias Kane sat on a wide balcony high in the palace. The city spread below him like a sea of silver and light. Towers reached up toward the stars. Ships moved silently between them. He wore simple dark clothes, no heavy robes yet. The crown of stars rested on a small table beside him. Its tiny trapped stars moved slowly, like calm breathing. The bigger crown he kept in a box. It still felt wrong on his head. Lyrian stepped out onto the balcony. She wore a light dress the color of evening sky. Her white hair caught the soft glow from the city. She sat beside him without speaking at first. They watched the stars together. You look tired, she said finally. I am, Elias answered. I haven't slept much. She nodded. The council meets every day. They argue. They test you. They want to see if you break. Elias gave a small laugh, short and dry. They'll have to wait longer. He looked at her. How are you? Lyrian thought for a moment. Better than I expected. I thought I would feel trapped. Instead, I feel free for the first time. Elias looked back at the stars. Your father? He rests now. The doctors say days, maybe weeks. He smiles when he sees the crown on you. He says you were the last gift he could give the Empire. Elias rubbed his scarred hands together. I didn't ask to be a gift. I know. A soft wind moved across the balcony. It carried the smell of night flowers. Below in the streets, people talked about him. Some called him the human king. Some called him the outsider. Children drew pictures of a small man fighting a giant horned warrior. The pictures spread on screens across the city. Far away, on the edge of Korath space, Prince Varkas healed in a dark fortress. His leg still hurt, his pride hurt more. He spoke to his generals in low voices. Ships gathered, plans formed, but they moved slowly. They remembered the fight in the hall. They remembered how the human refused to fall. Back on Thalor Prime, human diplomats arrived 2 days after the wedding that never was. They came in small ships, nervous and excited. They met Elias in a private room. They bowed too much. They called him, Your Majesty. Elias told them to stop. I'm still Elias, he said, just with more problems now. They asked questions. They wanted to know what this meant for humanity. Elias gave short answers. It means the Korath will think twice before they push us again. That's all. The diplomats left with wide eyes. They sent messages home. The human concord buzzed with the news. Some leaders worried. A human on an alien throne could bring danger. Others saw chance. A door opened that had never been opened before. Elias spent his days learning. Lyrian taught him. She showed him maps of the empire. She explained old laws. She walked with him through gardens where flowers sang soft music. He listened. He asked few questions, but he remembered everything. At night, when the palace slept, he trained, alone in a quiet courtyard. He moved slow at first, old habits from marine days, then faster, punches, kicks, dodges. His body still hurt from the fight, but pain was an old friend. One evening Lyrian found him there. She watched from the shadows for a long time. You don't stop, she said when she stepped into the light. Stopping gets you killed, Elias answered. You don't trust peace. I trust what I know. Peace lasts until someone stronger wants your things. Lyrian looked up at the stars. Do you regret it, coming here? Elias thought. He wiped sweat from his face. No, he said. I regret nothing. I just didn't expect cake to come with a throne. Lyrian laughed. A real laugh, clear and bright. It surprised her. Thalorian royals did not laugh like that in public. But here, with him, it felt right. You brought something we lost, she said. We became soft, beautiful, weak. You reminded us what strength looks like. Elias shrugged. I just didn't want to see an empire fall because of one loud idiot. She stepped closer. And now? Now I stay, until it's safe, until you don't need me anymore. Lyrian touched his arm. I think we will always need you. Days turned to weeks. The old king passed quietly one night, the palace filled with soft lights and quiet songs. Elias stood beside Lyrian at the ceremony. He wore the crown of stars. People bowed to them both. After the funeral, the council named them full rulers. Queen Lyrian, King Elias. The words felt strange in Elias's mouth when he said them. Messengers came from other worlds. Some offered friendship, some offered threats. Elias answered them all the same way. Short, clear, no anger. One day a Korath ship appeared at the edge of Thalorian space. Not an attack fleet, just one ship. It sent a message. Prince Varkas requested a meeting. Neutral ground, no weapons. Elias agreed. They met on a small moon station far from any main world. Elias went alone. Lyrian wanted to come. He said no. If something happens to me, he told her, you rule, the empire lives. She did not like it, but she let him go. Varkas waited in a plain room. No armor, just dark clothes. His legs still dragged a little when he walked. They stood across from each other. You shamed me, Varkas said. You tried to take what wasn't yours, Elias answered. Varkas looked at him for a long time. I could kill you now, he said. You could try. Varkas laughed, rough, tired. I won't. Not today. My people need time. Your people, they scare us now. Elias said nothing. Varkas continued, we will not attack Thalor, not while you wear that crown. But we watch, we wait. Elias nodded once. Fair enough. Varkas turned to leave. At the door he stopped. You are not what I expected from a human. Most aren't, Elias said. Varkas left. Elias returned to Thalor Prime. Lyrian waited on the balcony. He told her everything. She smiled. You walked in alone again. And walked out alive, he said. The stars watched them. Elias Kane, once a Marine, once a guard, now a king, looked at the galaxy he never asked for. He did not feel like a hero. He did not feel like a ruler. He felt like a man who kept standing when others fell. And that, in the end, was enough. The human who walked into a royal wedding had walked out a king, and the stars, all the stars, knew his name now.